Marwan Barghouti, the Palestinian prisoner, President Trump in his interview with Time said that the U.S. was considering asking Israel to release him. Is that something that you were asking?
You're talking about the one from the U.S.?
Marwan Barghouti, the Palestinian prisoner?
I don't have any news for you on that today. Obviously, we'll work that through our embassy here and our diplomatic channels, but we don't have anything to announce on that.
Following on your mention just now about disarming Hamas, is that something that the ISF force would be engaged in? And if Hamas refuses to disarm voluntarily, is that something that this force would be involved in forcing them to disarm?
If Hamas refuses to demilitarize, it'll be a violation of the agreement, and that'll have to be enforced. I'm not going to get into the mechanisms by which it is going to be enforced, but it'll have to be enforced. I mean, this is a deal, and a deal requires conditions to be met. Israel's met their commitments. They're standing at the yellow line, and that is contingent upon the demilitarization. So suffice it to say that we're also hopefully going to create conditions where Hamas won't have people, because there'll be waste. We want to see a Gaza where people can live without Hamas, where they have jobs, where they have prosperity, where they have opportunities. I'm not telling you that's going to be set up next week, okay? That is a long-term project. But what I am saying to you is that we want to create the conditions, we want to help create the conditions here so that people in Gaza don't have to be terrorized by Hamas, and in fact have lives, jobs, businesses, and a better future, and are completely uninterested ever again in joining, supporting, or being held captive by a terrorist group. So I think everyone, it's not just the United States, by the way. This is what makes this so unique. It's not just the United States. Understand, over 24 countries signed on to this, including regional powers, regional countries, Arab countries, majority Muslim countries, signed on to the commitment that there would be a demilitarized Gaza, and that there would not be a Hamas with the capability to threaten Israel. That's a commitment not just by the United States. This was signed on by all these countries. We fully expect that everyone will live up to those commitments.
From Israeli point of view, thank you, and welcome to Israel, by the way. I think the question from Israelis' point of view is that in the meantime, because everybody wants this plan, no question about that, in the meantime, as you mentioned, every day Hamas is rearming, re-preparing, doesn't give back our dead hostages. So the question is whether in the meantime the U.S. should let Israel to act on the other side of the Gaza Strip. In this way, the ISF future work will also be easier. That's the question. Thank you.
Well, right now there's an agreement in place, right? And that requires both sides to live up to their commitments. If what you're describing to me means the deal fell apart. But right now we're not at that stage, and that's what we're trying to prevent. That's why I'm saying to you, we're not going to forget about the hostages. We push every single day, and we'll continue to push until the remains of every single hostage is returned. Work is going on. Even as I speak to you now, that's being pushed on. That's not something we're going to start talking about. We fully expect that Hamas will fully demilitarize. That is the agreement they signed on to. That is the agreement that all of the nation states that joined this effort signed on to, and we expect it to be fulfilled. Now, we're about 8, 10, 12 days into this. But and the third point is we don't want to see any threats against Israel coming out of the areas that Hamas is currently still present in. And that won't be tolerated either. So the President's made that very clear, that if Hamas threatens Israel or fails to demilitarize, this will be taken care of. But that is what this whole effort is about, is making sure that all of those commitments are met on both sides. Yes.
Behind you, actually, an open source reporting that the U.S. accepted Israel's veto of Turkish forces and the ISF. Is that accurate? And can you provide any detail on that security force, how big it will be, who it will include, or any other?
Well, we haven't formed that force yet, so there's still work going on. There's a lot of countries that have offered to do it. Obviously, as you put together this force, it'll have to be people that Israel's comfortable, or countries that Israel's comfortable with as well. Let me just say that I think there are a lot of countries that are expressing interest right now. I'm not going to get into a list of who they are.
Within 72 hours, Israel should take in all Israeli living and deceased hostages. Those 72 hours have passed a long time ago, and we're not seeing those hostages being returned fully. Is the U.S. doing enough for that? And my second question is...
Yes, the U.S. is doing more than anybody else is for that, and we're going to continue to do for that, and it's going to happen. The remains are going to be released. That's going to happen.
President Trump terminated trade negotiations with Canada. Have you spoken with Foreign Minister Anand? What can Canada do to resume these?
Well, I think what happened is one of the leaders in Canada was running ads in the United States on tariffs that took President Reagan's words out of context. Even the Reagan Foundation criticized them for it. But I have not spoken. I've been traveling since yesterday, but I have not spoken to the foreign minister since then. But, I mean, the president made his announcement that he's suspended any trade talks with Canada for now.
What role do the U.S. see for the Palestinian Authority in Gaza and the day after? You know, we've heard about a lot of plans that was done by the Palestinian Authority.
The Palestinian Authority?
Yeah, that's Mahmoud Abbas Authority.
Yeah, look, again, I mean, obviously, you know, and I've expressed and we've expressed our concerns about the Palestinian Authority as it stands today. It's certainly in need of reform. As far as what role it's going to play in the future of Gaza, that's yet to be determined, if any role at all. We don't know. I mean, that's what's being worked on.
On humanitarian aid, you mentioned that that's going to be coordinated through here. I wonder if you could say what the role of the UN will be, and specifically what role UNRWA might play in
UNRWA's not going to play any role in it.
Okay.
UNRWA's not going to play any role in it. The UN is here. The UN is. We're seeing the work they're doing. The World Food Program. There's also not-profit NGOs, you know, humanitarian assistance organizations that are involved in this. Samaritan's Purse. So it's a conglomeration of about 8 to 12 groups that are here. The United Nations is here. They're on the ground. We're willing to work with them if they can make it work. But not UNRWA. UNRWA became a subsidiary of Hamas.
You're talking about disarming Hamas. There's been some discussion of a program to buy back weapons.
Well, there's a lot of ideas floating out there.
So
ultimately,
how seriously is that?
Well, I don't know, but look, there's a lot of ideas out there about that. The bottom line is, you know, you can't have any of the elements of terrorism. You can't have tunnels. You can't have rockets. You can't have anything that threatens Israel's security. I point back to the answer I just gave. If Israel's security is threatened, if 5 years from now, 3 years from now, 2 years from now, Gaza is a place where people who want to destroy Israel are able to operate from with impunity, there's not going to be peace. Everyone knows that. Every country that signed on to this understands that. It is one of the principles that's outlined here. That cannot be the outcome. The outcome needs to be a Gaza where people have jobs and a life and a better future, and people aren't thinking about, how do I kill Israelis, how do I attack Israel? Because if we can't reach that point, then there's not going to be a peace. There's not going to be an enduring peace. You can't be at peace with elements that want to destroy you and kill you and carry out another October 7th. Everyone recognizes that. But there's a lot of work that we need to do to achieve that. We're not there today, 14 days, 13 days after this deal was signed. But I can tell you we've made more progress in 13 days than anyone thought possible. We've come a long way. This is the first mile in a very long journey. We've got a long ways to go. But we're optimistic that it's heading in the right direction. We are better off today than we were yesterday, and better off yesterday than the day before. But no one is under any illusions. There's a lot of hard work ahead. There'll be bumps along the road. There'll be threats to this peace that emerge that we're going to have to confront. But there are also some exciting opportunities as well that we want to make sure that we are pursuing.
You and the president, vice president have voiced opposition to annexation. Do you have the word from the Israelis that they're not going to go ahead with this in the West Bank?
This was a vote that they took in the Knesset. From what it was explained to me, it was elements that tried to use it to embarrass Netanyahu while the vice president was here. Suffice it to say, you know, we don't think it's going to happen. And more importantly, it's not, from a legislative standpoint, structured in a way that could happen. But it would also threaten this whole process. I mean, we understand that, right? I mean, everyone has to understand if something like that were to happen right now, if that were to happen, a lot of the countries that are involved in working on this probably aren't going to want to be involved in this anymore. It's a threat to the peace process, and everybody knows it. But I'm not getting to the middle of Israeli politics. We're focused on peace and security.
What could we expect in terms of future normalization deals? After this ceasefire, we heard about Saudi Arabia, we heard about other countries. Is there anything you can tell to the Israeli people about the possible benefits of this deal?
Well, I don't think I need to explain to the people of Israel the benefits of normalization with more countries, especially regional countries, some of whom were on track to do so before October 7th happened, and we were close. So I think you look at the Abraham Accords, we'll be very open about the fact that we'd like to expand it and add more countries to that. And we see this as mutually beneficial. It's not just beneficial for Israel, it's beneficial for these countries. We have a lot of countries that want to join, that have expressed interest in joining and want to join. So I think that would be great, and I think that could be a byproduct of achieving some of this. And well, I'm not going to mention the countries' names because it's up to them to announce it. You know, they're going to say, I announce them here, and they're going to then maybe they haven't even talked to their own people about it yet. But I think we know who some of them are, right? We know who some of them are, and we think it would be great. There's some bigger than others, but we'd like to have as many members of the Abraham Accords as possible. That work is going, and I think what we're doing here could help, you know, create the momentum for that to occur. So yeah, I do think the Abraham Accords can grow.